and Indian Academy of Pediatrics from the allergy chapter, environmental chapter, and respiratory chapter. And also we have distinguished other people from London, Dr. Mehta. He the president of the UK, and N.K. Subramanya, he the chairman of the respiratory chapter of India. Ramesh Bajania, he's from Gujarat. He is the environmental chapter chairman. And Balachandar is from Kerala. He is the secretary general of the environmental chapter. Narayan Reddy and Sareen Devender, they are the state national executive committee member, Indian Academy of Pediatrics from Hyderabad and Rajasthan. They're also member of the CADE module. CADE module has got 1 hour air pollution. We prepared that, it's propagating all over India, as a matter of fact. And also we have Professor Rawat and Dr. Uday Bodankar on the way. And our president, international president, always used to come there, but he just sent a message for some emergency has come. He may not able to do. Dr. Yashwant Patil. Our Jayaj Rao is there. And I request Professor J. Srinivasan to welcome us. I just want to mention a few words about him. Professor J. Srinivasan, he was the graduate of IIT Madras 1969, and he did his MS in State University, New York, PhD in the Stanford University, USA. He is the founder of the Divecha Center Climate Change. It is 112 years old. He was the chairman from the inception. And right now, he is the Emeritus Distinguished Professor of Divecha and Climate Change till date. The Honorary Professor, Center for Atmospheric and Oceanic Studies, Institute of Science till date. And also, I like to say that he is a nephew of the late Nobel laureate Sir C.V. Raman. He was one of the director of this institute, which is 112 years old. So, and also, he's a man of, as a personally, I know him as a man of values, discipline, time-bound person with a helping hand always, and academic zeal to propagate always will be there. I feel proud to say that. Welcome him. So, welcome the organizers.
Thank you, Dr. Parmesh. On behalf of Professor K. Satish, Chairman, Divecha and Climate Change, we all thank Dr. Parmesh for organizing this seminar. Last Thursday of every month, we have heard a lot of eminent doctors cover a variety of topics related to environment and diseases. And so I'm very happy that it is going very well. And so we're hoping to hear a very good lecture today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, coming to the topic, today we have the expected environment changes in the prevention and control of the lung diseases. And giving some introductory remark about these issues. I think this month is lung cancer month, as a matter of fact. And as we are aware, non-communicable diseases are becoming more nowadays, to the tune of 70% is from the air pollution. Air pollution is a silent killer along with the tobacco smoke, and causing globally to the tune of 29% of the lung cancer, WHO, and 42% of the chronic lung diseases, 25% of the heart attacks, 20% of the stroke. A recent study from Government of India on August 19, 2021 report that Northeast cancer capital of India, they're calling it, to the fact esophageal cancer has been identified 13.6% there, and lung cancer 10.9%, stomach cancer 8.7%. In terms of ladies, they have found out breast cancer the most common, 14.5%, cervical cancer 12.2%, gallbladder 7.1%. So as we all aware, lung cancer does not cause noticeable symptoms during the early stage until they become large enough to press on the surrounding organs. And also if they spread other organs, other symptoms will come there. I had about 2 or 3 patients, as a matter of fact. One of them, it took about 3-4 months to diagnose the cancer, presented with a cough for about 2 months, persistent cough, then the persistent wheeze for about a month or so. Then finally, we had to do bronchoscopy, then find out it is a cancer. And the Shekhar Patil, who took care of that patient, the 14-year-old boy, as a matter of fact. And one has to be watchful about it, this cancer during, and those are all the persistent symptom of not cough not going away, persistent difficulty in breathing, blood in the sputum, feeling tired, and also feeling very weak, and persistent localized pain in the chest, pneumonia which is not clearing up the all the sorts of antibiotic. And during the talk, the speakers will cover most of these things. As a matter of fact, how environment contributing this factor. So now to chair this important session, we have with us the Dr. Shekhar Patil. He is the doctorate in the medical oncology, Adyar Cancer Institute in Chennai. And he is the senior consultant medical oncologist at Bangalore Institute of Oncology, which is a comprehensive cancer center since 1992. He is an active clinical practice in medicine spanning over 32 years, including 30 years in the medical oncology. He is an active involvement in continuing research project in the areas of chemotherapy. He is a principal investigator in various national and multinational clinical trials. He has got over 36 publications, national, international, peer-reviewed journals, including on the lung cancer in the year 2018. And he has done a lot of national organization, tobacco eradication, another person working on that one, educating the school teachers and students in this context, and participated in over 100 cancer detection camps in the rural areas. And it's an honor to have Shekhar Patil. And now we have the speaker, and that is none other than Dr. Arvind Kumar. Dr. Arvind Kumar is a very well-known robotic surgeon in India and is currently available in Medanta Hospital in New Delhi with Asia's largest experience in robotic surgery. He is considered to be the best robotic surgeon in India. Dr. Arvind Kumar is the first surgeon to start robotic chest surgery in India at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in the year 2008. He was the past president of the Association of Surgeons of India 2019. He is the founder and managing trustee of Lung Care Foundation. He is spearheading the against tobacco usage, Doctors Against Tobacco Smoke, as a matter of fact. And he is also coordinator with the WHO in this context. Received many awards, including the National Award on BC Roy. He is actively involved in the COVID-19 pandemic as an advisor. We have two speakers. I hand it over to Dr. Shekhar Patil as the chairman. Take it over. Let's hear from the speakers.
Thank you, Dr. Parmesh, sir, for kind words about me. And first of all, thanks for inviting me to be a part of this wonderful meeting and covering such a very important thing, because we see the lung cancer incidence is increasing. I feel today this topic of the environmental changes, how it can impact the increase in the lung cancer, and what are the changes we should take care to see that to bring down the lung cancer incidence is the most important thing. As we all know that lung cancer is the #1 cancer, particularly in males, constituting around 13 to 14% of all the cancers. So definitely it is an apt topic in this particular month on the lung cancer month, what we are trying to educate the people on this particular area. I think to this topic, we have got a very eminent and a very right person to talk on this one, Professor Arvind Kumar, and hearing his work and the type of work he's done in the last 3 decades in the lung cancer area. I think he may be the right person to throw us some light on how we should take care of to see that we bring down the lung cancer by what are the changes we should expect to be done in the environmental, what recommendation we should give to the public and to the government at large to make sure that the lung cancer is come down. So it is over to you, Dr. Arvind Kumar, for your talk. Thank you, sir. You are.
Could you
You are
please
muted. You are muted, I think, sir. You can unmute, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you. You unmute, sir. Still you are muted. Dr. Arvind, you are still muted, I think.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are audible now, please.
Okay,
Please
and
go
is
ahead,
my
sir.
slide visible?
Yeah, they are visible.
Okay, so distinguished chairperson, Dr. Patil, organizer of this meeting, Dr. Paramesh, distinguished guests, scientists from Indian Institute of Science, and numerous other prestigious organizations across the world. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm good evening to all of you, and my humble and sincere thanks to Indian Institute of Science, ComHAD, Lakeshore Foundation, and personally to Dr. Paramesh for this very kind invite. Lung cancer is a real menace today, which is increasing in rapid proportions. And if there is one cause which is causing this rapid increase, it is air pollution. When I was preparing this lecture, I talked to Dr. Paramesh also, and I said, should I be going into the research studies about causation, how it occurs, etc., etc. And after discussing with him, I decided, no, I'm addressing scientists. You people know more about the various details of the theory than I know, much more than what I know. So I thought what I would focus is the ground reality that I have seen in the last 3 decades of my career. And that ground reality will be summarized in just one slide, which I'll be showing towards the end. But before I reach that slide, I would just take you through what this environmental change or air pollution is doing to us as I see them every day as a doctor. And then I'll also describe very briefly some of the activities that we have done to address this issue. The aim of that being to exhort and to invite all of you that it's only through public participation that we'll be addressing this problem. We breathe 25,000 times a day, taking 10,000 liters of air. When I was a student, we used to read, okay, air has 80% nitrogen, 20% oxygen, some helium gases, etc., etc. But today, our children learn these terms, PM. PM is not Prime Minister. PM is oftentimes they hear on TV particulate matter, PM10, 2.5. And when they talk of gases, CO2, SO2, NOx, carbon monoxide, CFCs, these are the terms that we are hearing every day. Just for your information, PM 2.5 is something which is 1/40th the size of human hair. The importance of this particle is that this particle reaches even the terminal part of the lung. It has the potential to get absorbed from the lungs and go to the blood and cause damage not just to the lungs but also to every organ in the body. Just to share with you what this air pollution is doing to lungs, I want to share this experiment we did 2 years back in Delhi. We put up this lung replica. This was made of HEPA filter, which is the material that air conditioner have. And we put exhaust fans behind this large replica of lung to mimic the process of air going to lung. And we wanted to see that in few days time, what happens to the lung. Friends, we were horrified that, can you see on the left hand side, this was put up on 3rd November. We expected that maybe in a month or two some change will occur, but we were horrified that within 5 days, this white HEPA filter lung replica became absolutely black. Now, this is exactly what air pollution is causing to our lungs also. It's just that we are not able to see. Oftentimes, people talk that it's a Delhi-specific problem. If you look at the number of cities which are there in the top 50 most polluted cities of the world, you will find a large number of Indian cities there. It's not a Delhi-specific problem. It's a pan-India problem. Does it affect our health? Of course it does. Many times people ask, oh, it is something which affects the adults, the elderly people. I would like them to see this slide. There is enough data, enough evidence available that the harmful effects of air pollution start even before you are born. There has been now reports of placenta being shown to have PM 2.5 and other particles, and all the toxins can go through the placental barrier and start affecting the fetus even before it has come out of the mother's womb. And what happens thereafter? When a baby is born, say in city of Delhi, and the PM 2.5 outside is say 250, we know that 22 microgram per meter cube of PM 2.5 in terms of damage to the body is equal to 1 cigarette. And if the outside level is 250, it is equal to 10 cigarette. And the moment a baby is born, he or she starts breathing the same air. And I dare say that we have newborns becoming smoker in our country. And this statement of mine has a lot of relevance to what I'm going to show you in this slide as lung cancer cases that I see. Whole country on an average smokes 5 to 7 cigarettes a day, including newborns. 51 per minute births in India, 51 per minute newborn smokers in India. What age group? Anyone who breathes is under the attack of air pollution, but unborn babies, children, because they breathe faster and they have growing tissue, and elderly people because their immunity is low, they are the most vulnerable. What is the health impact? 1 cigarette per day is the equivalent of 22 micrograms. So whatever is the level of PM 2.5, just divided by 22, and you would know that you are smoking those many cigarettes per day, and this includes the newborns. Which organs of the body are affected? Everybody says, oh, only lungs are affected. Friends, these are the only organs in the body which are affected by the effects of air pollution. Unfortunately, when you look at the list, you realize that there is no organ which is left. From brain to bone, every organ in the body is affected by the effects of air pollution. This is the extent of damage that it is causing to us. Of course, since the chest is the point of entry, so highest damage does occur to the lungs where it enters. And this is how the colors change. This is a picture from my operation room, a picture of nice pink lung as we are born with. But friends, this is the kind of picture that I see in the residents of Delhi every day in my operation room. And this is what a smoker is. So this is how we are born with, extreme less, and this is how we become by staying in polluted cities. Same picture as I showed you in the replica experiment that we did. There are large number of pneumonia deaths and other things described. I can't go into details of these. Children are the most vulnerable and they suffer the worst harmful effects. They have growth retardation, they have retardation of their lung growth, and all these things have been well documented and described. Lung function values have been documented to be lower. Dr. Parmesh himself has done pioneering work in this field. And of course, the situation is not just in the city. In the city, it is different kind of pollution. But when we go to rural areas, this is the kind of exposure. And friends, can you imagine this child who is sitting next to a chula? What is the level of 2.5 in this smoke? as high as 20-30,000 microgram per meter cube. You can imagine the extent of exposure to this mother and to this child who's sitting next to the chula, and this happens. So no wonder that from allergy to asthma to COPD to interstitial lung disease, emphysema, tuberculosis, lung cancer, and frequent pneumonia and reduced lung capacity in children. All these are the gifts that we get because of breathing polluted air. Friends, this is the most important slide of my presentation, which is actually summary of 30 years of my career as a lung cancer surgeon. I have compared the situation I saw in 1988 when I started my career at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and 2 years back, 2018, when I was at Gangaram Hospital, I analyzed my data of lung cancer. Way back in 88, on the left hand side, 90% of my lung cancer patients were smokers, only 10% were non-smokers. Can you imagine, just in the span of 30 years, that 90% figure is now reduced to 50% are smokers, 50% are non-smokers. When I saw this data, I was shocked. My first reaction was, no, it's not possible. There must be some error in our data, in our recording. We went back, we called up all the patients, we checked with them, and we realized that no, the data is coming out correct. Then I called up my friends across the country in different cancer centers, and I was horrified that the same experience was shared by all of them. The figures might be varying 45%, 55%, 60%, but it's around the same. More importantly, the age of lung cancer patients way back then was 50 to 60, and now almost 10% of my patients are in 30s, and my peak age of lung cancer today is 40s. There were very few women way back in 88. Today, 40% of my patients are women who are non-smokers, who are wives of non-smoking husbands. The color of the lungs, I used to see pink in non-smokers. Today, I crave to see a pink lung. It's a rarity. I don't know when I saw a pink lung in anybody. That time, all my patients used to be discharged without need for bronchodilators. Today, I need to give bronchodilators to all my chest surgery patients. And I would just like to share this patient that I saw in my OPD a few months back. 28 years old lady, unmarried, non-smoker, from a non-smoker family, had got a very good job. The father was planning to get her married. She had a node in the neck. She came, we worked up. I thought it must be tuberculosis. I got a needle test done, and the report came as lung cancer. I didn't believe the report. I thought it must be a mix-up of samples somewhere. I got it repeated, and the report again came as lung cancer. And I went back and did a PET scan to find that she actually has metastatic disease already present. Can you imagine, friends, a 28-year-old lady coming with metastatic lung cancer? I felt numbed at that time. Father was thinking of marrying her, and here was a doctor who was telling her that she's going to have a very poor survival because she has a very aggressive disease. What are we heading towards? This picture keeps horrifying me all the time, and I keep showing it again and again. Friends, we can't peep inside our chest, but I get to peep inside the chest, and this is exactly. So does it shorten our life? Yes, there is huge amount of data to say that 6.57 million deaths are caused by air pollution every year. What is the magnitude? Everybody talks of only death, but friends, death is the apex of this pyramid. When you have normal population, before this normal population reaches death, there is a stepwise deterioration. So you have normal population at the bottom. When they are affected by air pollution, their lung functions start decreasing. They have various attacks, but they are still asymptomatic. Then they start having some respiratory symptoms. They start visiting doctors. Lot of money wasted, lot of time off work. They become more sick. then they start visiting doctors more frequently, more money spent, more absence from work, they become more sick, they start visiting emergency room, they start getting admitted to hospital, more money spent, more family disturbed, more absence from work, and finally they die. So death is just the tip of the iceberg. There is a huge amount of economic loss that occurs because of the disease of that person before the person dies. So friends, I would like to summarize: air pollution is a national public health emergency. Life of 1.3 billion people of India is at risk. It's a national emergency. It needs nationwide awareness, awakening, and commitment on the part of everyone. When I say everyone, it needs the politicians, the rule makers, the bureaucracy, the doctors, and the public at large. It's not something that we can defer for tomorrow. It's a do or die situation. Either we take corrective measures now, or we will never be in a position to take corrective measures. What do? We accept that air pollution is actually an emergency. Before you can solve any problem, you have to first accept the existence of that problem and the magnitude of the problem. Then you have to analyze the various causes, the various sources, and then you have to take specific goal-directed actions to achieve what you wish to achieve. And those actions will be at the policy level, which the government will take, and they will also be individual levels that we individuals we need to take. Just last few slides about what all we as individual citizens can do. So Lung Care Foundation has been very active, and I want you people to concentrate on this part, because this is where I want to appeal. I want to use this huge opportunity of reaching out to all prestigious scientists to appeal to each one of you to become an ambassador for lobbying across the country for clean air. I just want to mention 3 activities which we did, which we have found to be very powerful, and that's why I'm sharing. First was we created a Guinness World Record using children as a means of making the largest lung image in the country, which was aimed at awareness. And I want to suggest this to you, that each one of you from different areas across the country can actually use this method. It's a very powerful tool to raise awareness. We created best clubs in the schools to harness the power of youth to address the issue of air pollution. And now we have started a group called Doctors for Clean Air to harness the power of doctors for this thing. So videos by doctors and others can also be helpful. These are very useful things. I just want to share this small video with you that we wanted to highlight to the country and to the media that this is a major problem, and therefore we thought, instead of just going around and talking, let us show it to people in the form of a picture. We reached out to 35 schools across Delhi NCR and got 5,000 children to assemble in one stadium, which is Prayagraj Sports Complex Stadium, in December of 2017. The voice will convey it all. It's a 1.5 minute video. Dr. Parmesh, are you getting the voice?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. You are now muted. I think. Hello, Dr. Arvind.
Are you getting the voice?
Yeah, now we are getting. Yeah.
Sorry?
Now we are getting
so we
the
can
voice.
hear your voice, but not the audio from the video.
Okay, I'll just replay it. Are you getting it now?
No, sir, cannot.
We could see the picture, not a.
Audio we don't hear. Video is there.
Okay. So this was actually an effort by children where we got 5,000 children and about 4,000 of them wore pink colors overalls to make the lungs, and about 1,000 children wore blue color ones to make the trachea, bronchus, and segmental bronchi. And we had this 70-meter by 70-meter canvas. It was like in a football field, and we had these children come and collect. So these are all children, 5,000 children from schools across Delhi actually made this lung image and sat down there as lung ambassadors. Credit to these children that it took about 4 hours for these 5,000 children to collect within this image, and this was done by a professional. This created international.
We can't hear you, sir. Voice. Voice, sir.
Sir, I think his network is gone, sir.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
It is not a voice, sir.
His network is gone, yeah. Yeah, stop again.
Network. Subramanian,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
ಹೌದು ಸರ್, ಜ್ಯೋತಿರಾವ್ ಸರ್ ನಮಸ್ತೆ. ಸರ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಪಾಪ.
Okay.
I just spoke to Dr. Arvind. His computer has just frozen and is restarting it and is going to come online.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, he's back.
Yeah.
Wait, sir. We'll wait.
Yeah.
I think there is some problem with the computer. He's trying to log in through another computer. It will take a minute.
Sure, sure, sure.
Share. Split screen. बंद. Dr. Parmesh, am I visible now?
Yeah, yes, the picture is there. Yes.
Okay, fine. So I'll move. So I just wanted to convey that this was a very, very, very effective method, and the amount of traction it got and the kind of attention it got, I'm very pleased to say that this is something which can be replicated across the country to create awareness amongst people. The next thing that I found very useful is something called Breathe Easy, Stay Tough clubs, which are basically student-driven activities in the school, where we explain about air pollution and other things to children and ask them to drive this movement in their institutions. And I found this also to be extremely effective. And the last thing I want to say is that doctors, as doctors, we also see the effects of air pollution, which motivates us to work in this area. And when we talk to our patients and highlight this problem, they are likely to listen to us. So I always say that doctor is a motivator in this field, and to harness the power of doctors across the country, we have this group called Doctors for Clean Air, which is a group of passionate and informed doctors across the country to raise awareness amongst the general public, awaken them for need for faster action, and to take commitments from them and from policy makers that yes, they would take, the policy makers will make the policies and citizens will abide by them, so that all this becomes a reality. And I would end with this small video which just mentions how these things are actually affecting us. This is last 1.5 minutes. This is the image of a healthy lung that I shared with you, which is a rarity in today's world. What we actually see every day is actually dirty, polluted lungs, especially in this kind of lung, especially in people from the cities. Earlier, we used to think that maybe rural people will have better lungs, but now I'm realizing that no, even rural people are not having it. In times of high levels of air pollution, we see this. If you are wearing a white shirt will get dirty. And we see this every day, that we wear white shirt and it gets dirty. But I also see this, that a pink lung, which was supposed to be pink, actually has become black because of the pollution. But the irony is that the white shirt can actually be cleaned by cleaning it, but this lung, which has got these deposits, cannot be cleaned. If the shirt has become too dirty, we can go to the market and buy another shirt, but we cannot go to the market and buy a new clean pair of lungs. Therefore, there is no choice but to commit ourselves to do everything that it takes to clean the air we breathe. That is the least we can do for our next generation, that is the children. I think it's our sacred duty to provide them clean air. And I will end my lecture by committing that providing clean air to our children is our foremost duty. And friends, let's commit right now that from today onwards, everything it takes to reach this message to the people, awaken them, that they and the policymakers take the steps so that we all can breathe clean air, which I think is our human right. Thank you very much for your very kind attention. I am sorry about these hitches in the middle. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Chairman. Yes, over to the chairman, sir. Okay. Shekhar?
Sir,
Shekhar,
are you able to hear?
Yeah.
Yeah, are you able to hear? No? Yeah.
Sir, we can hear you. The screen is, your face is off cut, sir. You have to just
okay,
align.
now it's coming. Yes.
So, thank you, sir, Dr. Arvind, for such a wonderful talk. I think you brought a very, very important point to make, that definitely that is the only cause. Air pollution is the main cause for the causation of the lung cancer. And as you brought a very important point, that as I agree totally, that 80% of our lung cancers used to be smokers. No, whenever I used to see a non-smoker, young people coming, we used to get worried. What is this happening? That instance is becoming day by day more. We are seeing that more than 50%, I feel that they are related to air pollution, that too in the non-smokers. And I agree totally with that point. And I think that gives the most important thing is the importance of the controlling the air pollution, which can lead to global warming, climate change, and all the climatic changes which can occur. And today, what we are leading with one of the COVID pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic may be one of the indirect relations to this air pollution itself, because which led to the climate change and led to the one of the, and such more and more pandemics we may come to see in the near future because of all these alarming things which is happening around us. So it is very important for all of us to understand and see what best can be done to reduce this air pollution menace, so that indirectly it can help us to bring down the incidence of lung cancer in the country. And so for that, it is very important that we bring the awareness and give importance to the screening of the lung cancers also in the community, and getting the awareness about the air pollution, so that we can change the the way in which the lung cancers are presented. And to just add to, because this is a meeting more on the control and prevention, but as we see more of the stage 3, stage 4 lung cancers, 80% of our lung cancers present in an advanced stage. But the treatment also has evolved definitely in the last decade or so. We are understanding better in the terms of the biology of the cancer, so that the improvement is there in terms of a precision medicine. We are able to treat lung cancers in a different way, each lung cancer in a different way, so that the results are definitely better. But that doesn't mean that we should allow the lung cancer incidence to increase. So our workforce should be more in terms of how we can reduce the chances of one person getting into a lung cancer, because we are unable to diagnose them in an early stage. So with this, I will conclude my remarks, and I will take for further question and answer session. So from the audience, we will take the question and answer. So Dr. Parmesh, how would to go about the question and answer?
Yeah, I think our secretary is there. Ravi
Hi,
Kumar.
yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Dr.
Yeah.
Shekhar.
Yes.
Hello. Hi, Dr.
Yes.
Arvind.
Kumar, go ahead.
Thank you.
I'm waiting for the audience to post their questions on the chat box. Meanwhile, I have one question, sir, Dr. Arvind, regarding the N95 mask. I don't know, maybe the COVID has been a blessing in disguise with all of us wearing N95 mask, most of us. Do you think it will have a positive impact on the effect of lung pollution on lungs? Sorry, dust pollution on the lungs?
Yeah, so N95 issue has always cropped up whenever the air pollution issue used to be raised, and it was then proposed as a means of reducing your exposure to air pollution. But at that time, we were just not used to wearing masks all the time, and therefore we all used to oppose that as a means of tackling the problem of air pollution. Unfortunately, Corona has brought the mask into our houses and made it a 24/7 necessity for people like us when we are in the hospital. So from resisting wearing it even for few minutes earlier, today we have the situation of wearing it for 14-16 hours a day. So definitely there will be a collateral benefit on tuberculosis. So tuberculosis mission is actually very thrilled, and they feel that no TB 2025 or 2030 mission that they were having, they might actually be able to achieve that earlier because of the widespread use of masks, which will definitely reduce the tuberculosis, other respiratory transmissible diseases, and also reduce our exposure to air pollution. But I definitely want to state in the same sentence that please let us not recommend N95 as a means of facing air pollution. Let's catch the bull by its horn. Let's not, today a new smog tower has been inaugurated in the Connaught Place area in Delhi by politician with lot of fanfare. And I have already issued a statement vehemently opposing this means of controlling air pollution, because it just takes away the focus from the cause. The solution lies in looking at the causes of air pollution, removing those causes. And let me share that use of fossil fuels is one of the major causes which is not only leading to air pollution but also climate change. And if we don't address that problem head on, we are in for a serious time. And as the respected chairperson said, that COVID is just one of the pandemics. If we don't address this issue in times to come, we are going to see more and more of these viral pandemics.
So thank you very much. So one more question is regarding electronic vehicles. There's always this debate about the fossil fuels. Now more and more people are adopting electric vehicle thanks to the prices and also awareness. But at the same time, people argue the electricity produced through our coal factories may actually neutralize whatever benefits we are having. So whatever the pollution from the coal factories, say, let's say, for example, Dhanbad, where they have a lot of coal factories, it affects on the whole climate change. But is the same pollutants affect individuals in cities or even villages, which are far away from coal factories? Does it have any effect, or is it just other collateral damage?
So that's an excellent question, and it just shows that this is a multi-sectoral problem. You know, air pollution is a multi-sectoral problem, and the answers and solutions also have to be multi-sectoral. So we have energy sector, we have transport sector, we have agriculture sector, we have industrial sector, we have food processing sector, we have various natural events which occur. All these add to the air pollution and climate change. And it cannot be addressing just one issue without addressing the rest of them, which is going to lead. So electrical vehicles are a welcome step in the transport sector. But if you use electricity produced by fossil fuels to recharge these electric vehicles, you are taking a half-hearted approach. So it has already been said that these coal-fired power plants will choke our lungs to death, and they are death knell for the whole planet. So there is no reason why we should be continuing to rely on coal-fired power plant, when actually it has been shown that there is enough renewable sources of energy which are available, which are green. Earlier they used to be very expensive, but now it has been shown that the electricity from these sources is as expensive or as cheap as electricity from coal. So it's not the cost, it's not anything else, it's various vested interests which are preventing us from shifting lock, stock and barrel away from coal-fired plants to cleaner sources of energy. And unless we do that, it will be a half-baked solution.
Okay. Any questions from the chairman?
Dr. Jayaj Rao.
Go ahead.
Sir, you did mention that you had a patient aged about 28 years old woman who had a lung cancer, non-smoker. How did you manage that patient? Whether surgery?
This patient actually had an adenocarcinoma, and fortunately she was positive for one of the molecular markers. So she was put on what we call target therapy.
As a surgeon, at what stage would you like to operate?
Yeah, so the lung cancer treatment is very, very clear cut. It's called early and advanced. So stage 1 and 2 and stage 3A. These are all the cases. To summarize for non-medical audience, I would say when it's a small tumor confined to within the lungs, or at the most spread to regional glands of the lungs, that is what is called early lung cancer, where surgery has a role. Whenever lung cancer has spread to rest of the parts of the body, when it is called metastatic cancer, it is not a surgical case. It is managed by what we call systemic forms of therapy, which includes chemotherapy, where we give injections, and which includes target therapy, where we give some tablets based on the results of molecular markers.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I think Arvind, what he said about, I really totally agree with you. I thoroughly enjoyed, as a matter of fact. I think as our secretary was asking about it, he said either live or die. I like that one. Definitely, it is a fact. We have to bring that. We have to scare people with the facts. We have the fact to scare them. We are in the catastrophic phase. Greenhouse gases are extremely high now, nearly are about 450 part per million. We have to reduce to 350 million for the end of century. So otherwise, I think if it goes to 450 to nearing 500, 600, there irreversible damage happens. And if it goes more than 600 part per million, no life is existent in this world. We're all going to this extinction. It is a fact. So now, instead of taking care of the quality care, anything like that, your life is most important now. Save ourselves. I think very well you put it across. I really liked it, as a matter of fact. So let us not go to the extinction stage. We reduce as much as possible by end of this century. I think recently things are working in India about the hydrogen as an emission. As you rightly pointed, 95% of the pollution come from the emission come from the fossil fuel. Coal is the number one, as you rightly pointed. Then comes the oil. The smoke here and there, burning of the agriculture is only about 1 or 2-3%, only in certain season. And cement factory, there are 3% coming from that cement factory, as a matter of fact, small serpentine particulate matter. I think this hydrogen is said by 2070, we can reduce the fossil fuel emission from 95 to 5%. This is what I just heard about it today on some of the paper and media. So I think if something comes like that, it will be great. Government can able to do it. So not adding any further fossil fuel. What is existent, we have to learn the method of the oceanic agriculture and also converting the gas into stone. And these are all the technologies that are available. And also taking care of the people who have been affecting. That's one thing. Individually, how best we can able to reduce the carbon footprint, we have to work on that one. As the IAP is working on that one, making a slide, propagating, and respiratory chapter is working on that. Our president is there attending that respiratory chapter of India. So we are propagating all this thing. As a matter of 8 sectors are there, will contribute significantly. In them, number 1 comes from the industry sector. Number 2 come from the agriculture and related industries. Number 3 come from the air pollution, transport. Number 4 is the construction. These are all the 4 major contributing factors. So all the 8 sectors we have to do. Doctors are the right person. I think Indian Academy of Pediatrics, the first professional organization in the world, we signed the letter to the WHO in 2020. As a matter of the first sector where we educate 98%. Yes. 98% of the pediatricians are aware of the air pollution. We are propagating that. In other sector, we have to take the lead in all these things. I agree with your suggestion. We have to work on that one.
So air pollution and climate change are interrelated. So the same fossil fuel which is causing air pollution, releasing methane and carbon dioxide, is leading to climate change. And friends, we are seeing the effects of climate change. If you noticed how badly our hilly areas are treating, the kind of landslides, how many people lost lives this year. I don't think I ever saw so many people losing life to landslides in the mountain areas as has happened this year. The flash floods in China, the flash floods across US, all the jungle fires, half of California is on fire, the jungles there, in Australia, in Turkey, in Greece, all these tornadoes and these sea events which are occurring with such increasing frequency, these are all direct effects of climate change and all the consequences of fossil fuel burning. It's an emergency situation. Unfortunately, there is a huge commercial lobby which will not allow the fossil fuel use to be reduced or that decision to be taken by the government. And I see the role of doctors across the world as very, very powerful. If you remember, Dr. Parmesh, when there
Yes.
was this anti-smoking movement in USA, it was the American Medical Association which played a stellar role in raising countrywide awareness, and it was their actions which actually led to ban on smoking in public places in US. And I think the time has come where doctors across the world should take up this as an important issue, not only ourselves, but educate the patients and their families who are coming in contact with us, and use that to create a mass movement of people, because only that will force the politicians to take the decisions which they need to take today, but are not taking because of various reasons.
Sir, it was in a 2001 World Environmental Day, the Miami High Court slapped heavy fine in terms of billions for the tobacco industry. All the data they fabricated the different way. So they slapped very heavy in terms of billions, Benson Hedges and all these things. That's the day we remember. I think Karnataka, we planned the banning of tobacco smoke started in Karnataka first, and 2001, sir. After 3 years, it came in the Supreme Court judgment all over India. All of us putting their own efforts and all these things. That judgment created hell of a problem for us and created a lot of good things for us. Tobacco industry, banning tobacco industry. And as on 2005, the Margaret Chan said, 2015, Margaret Chan said, I don't want to talk to the tobacco industry. They never keep their words, quote unquote. He didn't want to meet them, as a matter. Director General of the WHO. So these are all the things creating problem now. The tobacco industry, so realizing it now. They fabricated all the data.
Yeah.
Yes. So any further questions?
Sir, can I make a couple of lines?
Please, please.
Yeah, please, sir.
While myself, I'm Dr. Subramanya. I'm thankful to the speaker for enlightening us, and Dr. H. Parmesh, whom we call Papa of environmentology. And he's an environmental by himself. And not just that, he's visionary who could foresee what will happen in next couple of decades. So I'm very thankful to his words, and compliment Dr. Ravi Kumar and George Rao and ASC for taking this initiative. I have some comments as right now I'm chairing Indian Academy of Pediatric Respiratory Chapter. We would be very glad to do as an organization the things that should be done. I think we have a responsibility of one, educating, and educating starts from the house. First, the most learned needs to relearn. I think that is the objective which we are achieving with modules, because half of us think that we know, but yet there are things that are unknown to us only. So I'm starting, let's say we are starting from the house. Number two, learning curve varies with different layers. So we would take the initiative, and with permission of chair and Dr. H. Parmesh, we would do the modules which are applicable at various levels. See, module is different for the public, education is different for the medical professionals, and it is again different for the administrators, because the same kind of language or the messages may not be, what should I say, have the effectiveness in all the different layers. So it will have an individual action, it will have an organizational approach, it will have an administrative reforms which should be done. So see, for example, a pediatrician or a pulmonologist or a general practitioner would ask for a scientific evidence. Administrator will look at it from the public health problem perspective, while an individual would just ask, sir, tell me, I am living in a high-end apartment, what should I do? For example, the questions could be variable at various levels, and I think we will have a stratification approach, and we will have different staged modules coming up. First, we will start with the air pollution module, which sir is the forefront runner, and then we will take it and split it across the three layers. One high-end for the high-end learners, hardcore learners, and middle level for the practitioners who are interested, doctors, and then some for the students as well. Somewhere, I don't know, we should also write to NMC to include it in the curriculum. Actually, I underwent the MBBS curriculum. There's hardly any mention of anything related to environmental sciences. It is yet to come. So I think there are a lot of things that needs some introspection for all of us. Can we have a request that post this session, let everyone a message to sir, and then therefore he would send it to me. We would make a summary of what is required, what should be done. Although there is enough, we can have a real-time update on what is to be done. See, for example, today I felt that this is bad. Tomorrow I feel that is much more bad. There has to be some platform on which we will update on real-time basis, evidences, photographs. This is how even breastfeeding network of India is also working. They are working on real-time basis and continuously, as and when the infant food industry goes up, they will put their thumbs up, and there are good number of soldiers. I think this is high time as organization that we should create soldiers, medical soldiers, environmental soldiers who can fight for the cause of tomorrow. And I expect a lot of guidance from sir. Maybe it's a long driven battle, legal and non-legal, legal and educational both, but accumulating evidence along the way and having a right perspective and approach. Sir, you can also correct me. I'm your student, learned a lot. Even I could learn about smog and smoke and fog, all the differences, everything you taught us so nicely. And I think we will have a long driven battle, and we will all work as soldiers under you and under your guidance. And once again, I compliment the speakers for those beautiful lung images. And I still recollect in Indians of Science, I think, sir, you also presented the same images. If I remember, a year back or so, you had posted that image. We were all the participants there.
Yeah.
And that image is imprinted in our mind till date. So thank you very much. And if you could share us in WhatsApp, we will share it across the groups of respiratory
Sure.
chapter as well. So just let them at least see and believe that my lungs are not fair and lovely all the time. Thank you very much.
They are dark and deep.
Thank you, Subramanian.
Okay. If there are no further questions, I think we can bring a closure.
Professor Srinivasan, sir.
I want to thank Dr. Arvind for giving a very nice talk which appeals to the broad audience. I just want to say that he has created awareness among children, but these children have to create awareness among their parents, because unless the parents start demanding electric vehicles, that shift from IC engine to electric vehicle will not occur quickly. And China is doing it much better than we are doing it. I think it's high time that through the children, we put pressure on the children themselves and the parents to move away from IC engines. And India is a country which imports $100 billion worth of oil. And it is not a country which should be doing that. It should be depending on its own resource, which is the sunlight. So I hope this awareness among children is expanded further so that action takes place. People actually change their ways of living. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Parmesh, can I just respond to that?
Please go ahead, sir.
Sir, I'm so grateful for your very, very precious, very kind, apt comments. And that's exactly, during the anti-cracker campaign, I realized that if you convince parents against cracker and children demand, insist, and do emotional blackmail of parents, the parents will ultimately relent and buy the crackers. On the other hand, if you convince children not to demand it, even if the parents go and buy it, the children will not let it be burst. This was our experience in the cracker episode. And then we realized the power of the children. It is not the parents who control the house. It is the children who control the parents. And if we can convince the children in a certain way of life to do things certain way, I think the parents will come totally under control. And that's exactly why we are laying so much of stress on children. And I wish to expand this best experiment across the country. If all the children of the country are convinced on this issue, trust me, you will see very few vehicles on the road and the fossil fuel consumption will go down. That's a wishful thinking. Thank you very much for your very kind comments, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. It's been a great evening. It goes without saying, Dr. Arvind, it's the first time I've heard you talk, and you have been very enthusiastic, and your energy is infectious. And Dr. Shekhar Patil, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for adding value to this meeting. I would also acknowledge the presence of Dr. Subramanya, who is the IAP Respiratory Chapter President, Dr. Jayajirao, Dr. Parmesh, Dr. Srinivasan, and all the esteemed members of Indian Institute of Science for making this a very enlightening evening. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks to everybody. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful